Another episode of the Herb and Rod podcast coming at you. Special guest coming in tonight. Been on the show before. Coming back to educate us on what a real team looks like these days. Herb and Rod podcast starts in 20 seconds. So, Raj, how are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing fantastically splendid on this beautiful Tuesday evening. Always good to be with you and doing another show. How's everything on your end?
Because I'm on location with you, I'm getting a taste of the twin family life.
Oh yeah, busy.
I see it's a little hectic.
Definitely keeps us on our toes. And Sid and I laugh about it all the time because it's like before you had kids, we just like kind of do what you want to do. We had our routines, but we kind of come and go as you please. But once the kids get here, hey, you got to try to squeeze in those times when you can. But it's all good. We're glad to have you and Britt here. So it's awesome.
Thank you, sir. So I'm letting one of our people know. We're waiting on our guest, Randy of Damn Beast Media. So he'll be here in a second. I think he was having a little technical issues before he got on too as well. Shout out to Mr. U.
Shout out to Mr. U. I got the shirt on too.
Sent us the shirts. His show is every Monday morning, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. Always a great show. He's been on our show. His started off a guest, and I think now it's a show together. Football Talk with Bo. Yeah, you can find both of those guys on the Twitter X, whatever you want to call it. Great show though. Every morning.
Definitely.
So.
Again, I am wearing my shirt as well too. It's just my camera angle's a little off, so I'll adjust that as time proceeds. But yeah, shout out to Mr. U. We appreciate it, man.
Okay. So Raj, until we get to get Randy on here, you know where we got to start. So I guess it's just a given now. We're just not going to put together a full game of this thing they call football.
Yeah.
Huh? It's just going to be, can we be good enough in that second quarter or third quarter or whatever it is we play to win the entire game?
I don't know. And what Herb is referencing is the game we just played against Arkansas this past weekend. Going into the game, we were like either 19 or 19.5 favorite. Herb and I spoke, days and maybe a week before the game. We both felt optimistic about it. Based on our play against Texas A&M, we say, okay, things are looking up. We're going to play well. We should be able to cover. I know I picked us to cover. I think Herb did as well.
I'll say this. I didn't. I said win, but I said there's no way I would take that many points with Bama. And that's just I couldn't take that. Who's the team we played before Auburn this year?
Is it Mercer?
I'm not gonna. Mercer. I wouldn't leave
Chattanooga. I'm sorry. We host Chattanooga.
I wouldn't leave the points on that game, right?
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not on any SEC game. I was just like, and of course it looked good at halftime. So I was like, oh, maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully
we were up 21-6 at halftime. So we're like, okay, it was a slow start, but offense started to pick things up. Defense played well. And then here comes the second half, and we only scored 3 points in the second half. We ended up winning 26-21 or 24-21. I'm sorry, 24-21. And it's just like all of our expectations and hopes are just like we're extremely confused. Confused, and this might lead into what I guess Herb was going to bring up is we already know what week it is. It's the third Saturday in October, so we're playing.
Is 24 points our cap for our offense?
It seems like it. I told you we hover around the mid-20s range, maybe late 20s, but
I guess against Mississippi State we kind of blew it open.
Yeah.
But everyone else like at 20, even the 26 against Texas A&M was a 24-point. 24 points by the offense.
Yeah.
So,
I
don't know.
Yeah. And we see Brian. Shout out to Brian chiming in. Brian saying a win is a win. Tennessee's not who they were last year, and we know that. But unfortunately, we weren't the same team we were last year as well. So it's kind of like we just don't know which Alabama team is going to show up.
And for how long they're going to show up.
And for how long. I would Herb, what do you think? What do you think our chances are of making the SEC championship right now with the way we've been playing?
I think if you can handle LSU's offense at home, you're going to make it.
Okay.
Now, could I see us dropping the game at Auburn at the end of the year? As sad as this is to say, being on the road and that being a tough environment, yeah. But you got to beat LSU at home, and your offense is going to have to take advantage of their defense. You win that game, I can see us beating the SEC championship. Getting to the SEC championship game. Now, when I look around the nation and I see us ranked 10, 11, wherever, I'm like, that's about right. Our defense is a top 5 defense, and our offense is like a top 50 offense.
Yeah.
So do I feel like, we're watching these games? We'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
Do I think that we can hang with the Washington, Oregons of the world? No.
No.
You can't have as many lulls and just put your team back out there.
We wouldn't be able to go punch to punch.
Arkansas fan coming out there.
Yeah.
I don't know if the come on is for us or for Arkansas, because neither team was great.
I wonder if Tisha, shout out to Tisha. I wonder if she's saying, look, it was Arkansas. Come on, guys. We should have played better. I think that's what she's trying to say.
Right. Well, I think also, though, because I've been listening to an Arkansas podcast all week, too, they just expect better from their team as well. So it's hard to talk. And Ricky, I guess if he's out there, he's saying Arkansas always plays us tough. Right. And we had that game, well in hand, and that's
They didn't play us that well. We just played horribly.
Yeah. See, that's my fear, Rick. So I think this game will, the game right now would go like any other. We would get a couple stops on LSU, but then our offense would have too many 3 and outs.
Right.
And it would kind of all of a sudden turn into, okay, you guys got nothing. Defense gonna get tired, gas, one bad play, and it's done. So
that's
we'll get
what
to
I'm
the
worried
question
about
in there, but Washington would hang 40 on it. Yeah, because we'd have too many lulls, and I think that's the problem. And
but
eventually
see, the thing
our
is,
defense would.
Last year, even if Washington hung 40, so we could still get 45 to 50 points. We could do that with our offense. This year, it's like we can't let anybody score 40 or it's over. We can't let anybody score 30, really, or we're going to lose. So the defense has definitely been carrying the load this year, and it looks like they're going to have to continue to do so.
Yeah, so agree with this. Penix, yep. Rex, you're not giving me any hope whatsoever, though. So you're depressing me right now.
Yeah.
The truth hurts. So I'm not looking forward to the LSU game. I'm hoping that somebody figures something out. And I guess this is the epitome of an Arkansas comment right now.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
I would say no, because they would get enough stops. And our defense is championship caliber. It would start off with stops both ways. Right. But if you had to ask me who would score first, I would definitely go with Georgia. Give them enough cracks at it, and they're going to figure it out. Yep. And ours, is like Big Mike likes to obviously say, we're all or nothing. If somebody doesn't get behind the defense and go for a 50, 60-yard touchdown, we're not just driving the ball down the field. You're not going to just run on Georgia. And it's there were several plays in this last game where the short intermediate passes were there. It's and one of them, I think it was a third down play, and receiver just does a simple little out route. And, he hung the ball 10 yards over his head. The guy kind of jumped up there and then nothing, and it's if you can't hit that, how are you going to sustain drives? The home run ball is not always going to be there.
Yeah, that's the thing about Monroe. He's good at that deep home run ball, but so are a lot of other quarterbacks in college. And I even mentioned this during the game. I was like, I need to see the 10 to 15-yard short passes. The passes that are going to help drive us up the field if there's a little over a minute left in the game and we just need to drive. We can't sit there and just wait for the 45, 50-yard pass and pray and hope that helps us win the game. We need to see you move the offense. So,
and that's to go back to Rex's point, LSU's going to score points, man. You're going to have to match them. You have to take advantage of that defense. If you're not going to do that, the game is lost. Daniels is going to have a field day, but you either have to keep him off the field with some sustained drives or, this is the problem. The short stuff is just now he's got an arm and he wants you to be where he field.
He's
got that would have helped the game against Arkansas is being able to complete some of those. So Brian's got some. I think Georgia looked eerily similar. How far? I think Georgia is still Bet can actually they can put drives together better than Bama can. Right. I think that's the thing. They're playing down to their competition a lot. Don't get me wrong on that. But I feel like if I had to have one guy for a drive, I'm taking their guy over our guy right now. We don't do drives very well.
I agree.
And the
it
Brock
seems like,
Bowers thing is something we're going to discuss.
When Randy gets on, probably.
Yep. So
Yeah.
And he thinks they would have lost to Texas as well. I don't know, man. I feel like Texas gets up a little bit more for Bama, and Sark really wanted that one more than he wanted the other game. So that would have been interesting. I think Kirby has that defense always playing well, keeping them in games. So that would definitely be an interesting one. But where he comes up short, he's committed for offense coordinator was well, that's a whole nother story. I really like the hiring at first just because I thought it was a young guy and he'll get in there and kind of work with Milroe more. But now it just seems more of I really have started to feel like he was hired and his whole to bring Buckner here.
Yep.
And I fought that thought at first, but I really think that was his whole thing. You know what? I'm going to see what they got. And Buckner, and that didn't work out. And now he's like scrambling. But it's almost like he hasn't worked with Milroe before any of the games.
Right. And I think what he did was the first few games he worked with Milroe as best as he could. He tried to pass a few times. It didn't work out. So he kind of shied away from passing and run unless it was a deep pass. And then the second half of the A&M game, he's like, okay, if we're going to get out of here, we have to throw the ball. And if you remember when we came out after halftime that third quarter, the first 7 or 8 offensive plays were all pass plays. Right. All we were doing was throwing the ball. So that kind of opened up the run a little bit. But I think that Reese is doing an all right job. I would like to see some of the shorter passes, but again, I don't know what the plays are being called. It seems like the pass plays are all like, let's go deep. Let's go deep.
To that point, though, we're not like Milroe's not completing any of the short ones. So it's not, is that the play calls or is that the only passes he's really looking for?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. So I would definitely take your Sooners against anyone too. Like these are, I don't know. It's like he's not doing a good job. We're trying to be a little positive as far as
trying to be optimistic. Always hoping for the best.
Yes, and fearing the worst on here for sure.
My question to you is now that, like, I wonder what our depth chart looks like now. Now, is Buckner, did he just really slide to the bottom? And if that's the case,
Buckner should be carrying the water for everybody and carrying a clipboard.
Yes.
So if something happened with Milroe, Simpson has to come in.
And
then I would go Dillon. And then I go Holstein, and then I would just go wait till next year, like run the Wildcat or something.
And then, of course, come next year, people will transfer anyway. That's going to happen like every year if they don't get the playing time too early. So
yeah. I wonder if this is true. But there's like no touch on them. And some of these guys are so wide open on the short passes. I'm like, you don't even really have to try to get it to where they are. Sometimes just get it in that area,
And also like throwing those short passes and just moving the ball up the field helps your defense because it gives them some rest.
Yes. But I think that's what happened in the second half there.
But when they're on the
just
field,
on the field too much,
we're on the field for too long, and then you go out, you throw a deep ball, we get a touchdown. Now the defense is like, all right, dude, we barely got to breathe. Now we have to come back on the field. So,
So let me see, what is it? Yeah, about Buckner. Yeah, he shouldn't. Like I'd be afraid to have him there.
I mean, we played South Florida, and he just looked horrible.
Terrible.
He looked horrible. He couldn't throw the ball. There was no spin, no spirals. It looked really bad. So.
Yeah. I mean, Mike, I've heard you got quite an arm.
I heard Mike got an arm. Yeah.
Well, I'm okay with that. So
shout out to Big Mike.
I don't even know if we're beating LSU to get to that game. So everybody has left them for dead. Now I don't know how the three part, like, because we beat Ole Miss beat LSU, and if LSU beat us, I don't know how the tiebreakers work.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we're getting there, but I don't think it matters Bowers or not. I just don't know that we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
So. And Raj, it looks like we have a guest. He was so this was the dramatic entrance. He was kind of like hanging back. He's on top of the world right now. So he sent me a text that says, "I'll be there when I be there." So
it's kind of like his Ric Flair type entrance. Like.
He was getting this. So just so everybody knows, we do have a guest on here, Georgia Bulldog fan. A couple facts about him first. He once beat Herschel Walker in a foot race at practice. So, yep.
He's on his head. That happens.
Yes.
That happens.
This might anger Bama fans, but he's the one actually responsible for bringing Kirby Smart to Georgia. Yeah, so I know that's a tough. Yes,
gosh.
yeah. And then maybe this one will warm your heart, Raj. Uga actually stays at his house in between games every week.
Knew it. I had a
Yes.
feeling about that, but I knew it. The rumors are true.
Yes,
Let's
the
bring him
rumors are
on.
true, so. Randy, appreciate you, bud. How are you doing tonight, sir?
The Gremlins are strong, friends. Lord have mercy. You know, I don't know if any of your viewers might know, but last week I took a break from All Dogs All the Time, and I got back here, cranked everything up, and I thought we were good. And then when I decided, no, I actually have to go into these virtual spaces and stuff.
Mhm.
So literally 2 seconds prior to me starting to speak and you bringing me on, I was clicking the final button to rearrange everything so that you could actually hear me and I could see you and all that. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy y'all invited me.
Of
and
course.
I'm just like, just bear with me, fellas, you know, but I'm here and I'm happy about it.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Appreciate
Yeah,
it. Second
It
time.
let us vent about Bama for a little bit too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we kind of got that out of the way with the first 15 minutes, just talking about the Arkansas game and what our expectations were prior to the game after playing so well against A&M. Going into the Arkansas game, I thought we were going to cover. Herb didn't think we were going to cover, but we thought we'd win, and obviously that didn't happen. So going into Saturday, third Saturday of October, obviously we're playing Tennessee. I have no idea what to expect. Obviously, I want us to win, but I don't know what's going on anymore.
I don't think I know what to expect either. Just being completely honest, because I mean, Herb is a regular visitor, and noticeably, Raj is not to our Thursday night pick'em show, and that's fine. That's fine.
I got to get better at that.
We're all busy, man. You got the twins, I got it. But I'm just saying, he knows kind of how Show and I are about your Bama, right?
Yeah.
Like. Joe doesn't really give him a lot of love, but this last weekend we were both on Bama, and we were like, "Yep, they're going to get the win." That turned out to be a lot closer than I had thought it was going to be. I mean, and this is coming from an Arkansas guy, right? Y'all remember? Yeah. I'm like, "Let's go, Arkansas!" But I didn't believe it. I knew they would fight. I just didn't. Just like you were saying, I thought Alabama had made strides enough to sort of offset whatever it was that Arkansas might bring, and yet it still wound up being as close as it was. So that got my attention, and I'm not going to lie, I thought there was a minute there. I'm like, yeah, Alabama's going to lose this game.
Yeah,
and
I had the same feeling.
There were several minutes there. I'm holding a baby in my arms going, shh, this is terrible.
Yeah. That's the hardest thing in the world, man, to try to watch a game when you have a little one. Yeah. And I was surprised. So no, and on the other side of that coin, when I was looking at what the A&M Tennessee debacle, right? That was it was weird. Really, really ugly.
Yeah.
Like but with all that said, I did pick Tennessee to win. So I got going into this week, I got those two squared away. And I'm actually, as a Georgia Bulldog fan, going to be paying a lot of attention to this game because I think it's going to tell me a lot about both of those squads. But obviously, we would face Tennessee first.
Right.
And, I don't know how you guys want to play this, but we can get into who and what they are and why I feel that way. But I'm going to be paying close attention because there's a lot of things there that are going to directly impact what happens with my squad in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Right. So let me just tell you about that game. We had the 2 TV setup going. There was never a desire to move Tennessee off of the second TV onto the main one. And it was like one of those games where if you just miss a whole quarter, you haven't really missed much,
Yeah.
I picked Tennessee. I think Raj did all. Yeah, we both picked Tennessee, but it was squarely coming off of a bye and being at home. I feel like Texas A&M would have come up with enough mojo to win at home, but it didn't. It made me feel a little bit better because Tennessee is trying to I guess grind it out a little bit more. Milton seems like he has the same problems as Milroe, and it's deep ball or nothing. They're not putting drives together. They're not working it down the field. It's just, can I, what's the tag on him? He can throw it 50 yards easy. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
The guy isn't open 50 yards. If he's 25, if he's 10, I don't see where any of this helps. So I gotta feel this. Brian has been saying this. He's a shell of themselves. I just don't think they could replace what they had with Hooker and those wide receivers. You know, that's my personal what I kind of see from it.
Yeah,
I think it's clear that the offense is not plug and play.
Right.
I think Joe Milton is at once both exactly who we thought he was and a major disappointment. So because I had never seen anything from him to let me believe that he was going to somehow transform his game, and everything that has plagued him for his first 5 years in college was going to be fixed heading into this year. He had the one good game, again, in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
But outside of that, he's looked like exactly the same guy he was. And the thing about this Tennessee offense, and I don't know if there's anyone in Tennessee, a Tennessee fan in the chat or anything, but Tennessee, they run 9 plays. I'm not saying that. That's what Jalen or whatever's Hyatt last year, that's what he said. We have 9 plays. And of those 9 plays, the majority of them are half field reads or, option reads on the route. So obviously that makes it, variations on 9 plays, but it's still just 9 plays. And to think that a 6th year or 7th year, whatever he is now, quarterback in Joe Milton can't read the defense on a half field read when you only have 9 plays to work from. I just think all you need to know about that.
Yeah,
and so if Tennessee's going to be anything that they think they're going to be, and prior to the season, I had them pegged at 9-3, possibly 8-4. And if they're going to be anything close to what they thought they were going to be, it's clearly getting done on the ground, and that defense is improved. So this game, I would expect this game with Alabama to be a low scoring affair.
Agreed.
And it's going to be how do Tennessee's linebackers play against Alabama's run game, including the quarterback run.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing I'm going to be looking at is the interior of Tennessee's offensive line has really been penalty prone, and how are they going to handle the big guys that Alabama has on that interior defensive line, not the edge guys, but right there in the middle. So I mean, that's what I'm going to be looking at. And again, I'm sort of dropping hints about what I'm paying attention to as it relates to my squad. So, but that whole thing, I really don't know what to make of them, honestly. And notice, I'm not even talking about Alabama, because to me, they seem as schizophrenic. I don't know if the offensive line's problem. I don't know if it's coaching and talent, and they're not being developed and getting better, because one week I think they're better, and then you see the same stuff reappear. Yeah. So I don't know if that's it, or if Jalen Milroe is the offensive line's problem in that the way he moves inside the pocket, the fact that he holds the ball. I'm not sure which one of those things is more than the other, or maybe it's just both. And so you end up with what you have. So, I mean, again, I'm looking in from the outside, but I can't really make heads or tails of either of these squads right now.
Right.
It does seem like it's a mixture of everything that you just mentioned, and one of them.
I'll say this though, I think the talent is there, for sure.
Yeah.
But your second part of it, the development, definitely missing. Go ahead.
No,
Raj, I think Rex is with you. He said the combo of everything.
It's a combo of everything you said. And one of the things that Herb has mentioned this several times is that Milroe has a bad habit of holding the ball in the pocket for too long and not making a quick decision. He'll hold the ball in the pocket. And most of the times in the past, we would just think, okay, he's probably just going to run the ball up the middle, whatever the case may be. Now he'll hold the ball in the pocket, scramble backwards, go backwards, and then just take a sack when you could have just thrown the ball away. And I don't know how you adjust that or make those changes. I don't know if he's talking to him. I don't know what goes on behind closed doors to kind of let him know, hey, you've got to make some better judgments. But we're losing a lot of yards there. And then you see all the penalties that we've created on the offensive line is all these false starts. And it's just like every game, it's like 3 to 5 false starts. And again, I don't know if this goes back to your point. Is it Milroe making the wrong calls? Is it him not getting them in check? Is it the offensive line? Maybe the youth on the offensive line. I know we got Caden Proctor out there, and Caden Proctor looked pretty shaky early on. He let a lot of sacks get in. I don't have the number.
Shaky is putting it nicely.
For him to be 6'7", 365 or whatever the case may be, I mean, he was letting a lot of people get past him early on.
Yeah.
Seems like somewhere over the past 2 games they got a little better, but those penalties are just
Yeah. And you know
just
it's weird? We don't
inexplainable.
get like a lot of holding calls. So either we jump before you go or we just let you go by us. But there's like no in between. They never
Yeah.
call holding on us. But it's like you go and read it, you know, that what was it? John Jackson, whatever was for Arkansas was eating our lunch out there.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
But to one of your points in the middle of that, Randy, and what Rod was touching on, I think a lot of it's on Milroe. I think last year, I think Bryce was making a lot of checks at the line. His blitz recognition was much better. But if you looked at our latest games, Milroe is going to start the first series against Tennessee by holding the ball and taking a sack.
Yep.
And we can say, oh, well, the offensive line gave him their sack. No, after 5 seconds, it's not an offensive line problem.
Right.
It's a quarterback problem.
I would say
You
not even
can't-
5 seconds. Don't even wait that long. Once you get to around 4, you got to say, listen, if nobody's open, I'm going to run the ball. And you don't have to run 50 yards down the field. Just run and get enough and get out of bounds.
Yeah.
Right. You're never going to go broke taking a profit. And I haven't watched every down of what Alabama's doing this year, but is that something he's doing? Is he taking his check? Is he tucking the ball and running? Is he trying to keep you out of 3rd and long? Because the other side of that coin that you were just talking about is that if he's having to hold the ball for 4 or 5 seconds, that means that your receivers aren't winning.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's either scheme or they're just not winning their one-on-ones.
Right.
So, it all fits together.
Right.
It's never just one thing. It's always a bunch of stuff. But when we spoke earlier this year, the thing I pointed to was the discipline factor that I saw in Alabama last year was wanting. Yeah. And I feel like that's not much better. Is that a misread or is that accurate?
I feel like defensively, we've taken a huge step up this year. And you even go like, people say, well, Texas, if we don't throw a couple interceptions, one including giving them the ball inside the 10-yard line, that game looks a lot better. I feel like defensively, we've been a lot better. Obviously, you're going to see breakdowns here or there because they're on the field so much. But offensively, the line has still been bad. To your point about the wide receivers, I couldn't tell you if the wide receivers are getting separation on the intermediate routes because we're only looking for the deep ball. So I feel like when Milroe's back there, it's like home run. Because what was it against Arkansas? He had completed 3 of his first 7-8 passes or whatever, but he had like 130 yards.
Yeah.
That just tells me, are the receivers winning where you want them to win, or are you looking for something else? So somebody who breaks down film would be better at that. But I feel like we have no idea because in the first couple of games, I think Raj and I would agree the receiver play was much improved from last year. There was a lot less drops. They were making a lot of tough catches, but we don't even go for.
Yeah. Randy, you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what Herb was. I think what he was mentioning was, in the first couple of games, I know it's something that Herb and I discussed last year was the wide receiver play, and we dropped a lot of passes last year, even with Bryce throwing some really, really good balls. Herb, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. You're good. You got it.
Oh, no, that was my point. It's just we're going for the home run too much, and we're not getting anything intermediate. So when people say, are the receivers winning those? I have no idea. Somebody who breaks down film would be better at that, but I feel like we're going for the long bomb every time.
Well, it's hard to see unless you're looking at the all 22 anyway. I mean, it's because when you're watching the television copy, you're really going to see the box and what happens within 8 to 10 yards of it. So those 15-yard digs, those out routes, stuff like that, you just really can't see it unless you get that all 22. Yeah. So, we don't always have access to that.
Yeah. And one thing that I try to do is when I do watch Milroe plays, especially when he's in the shotgun, when he gets the ball, I always like to look at his head movement because obviously from the TV's perspective, you can only see so much. So I try to look to see if is he looking at his checks? Is he going through his progressions? But it seems like half the time he's looking straight ahead for that deep ball. And if the receiver gets open, he's going to throw it to him. But that's just something that I've noticed, and it kind of bothers me because Herb and I even discussed, like, if there's a little over a minute left and we're down by a few points and we need to drive the ball down the field, we don't need to go for the home run. We need to know that Milroe can move us down the field. And in another scenario, let's just say our defense has been on the field for 5 to 6 minutes. They might need a rest. So when they're resting and you go out here and throw a deep, 60, 70-yard touchdown pass, we're glad we scored. But now the defense is saying, oh, here we go. Just got a little bit of oxygen. Now I got to get back on the field for a couple more minutes, and they're tired. So I would like to see, just personally, I would like to see him be able to move the ball down the field a little more. Maybe get those 10-yard, 15-yard passes, do what he can. But again, I'm not watching the film. I don't know what plays are being called sometimes. So it just seems like the deep ball is what he focuses on mainly.
Yeah. Well, to that point, the other side there is your run game. Now, from what I can tell, you've got a couple of backs that are productive, over 700 yards together. I mean, that's a pretty good number. But I have heard other people asking why you're not having a larger rotation in the running back room. I mean, I know there's talented.
We did against Arkansas finally.
Okay,
but
I know
that
there's
was
talented
it, Randy.
players.
That was the only time. To your point, we have at least 5 backs that most people can name that they would love to see out there, and we haven't seen most of them. And then all of a sudden, we saw all of them against Arkansas.
Yeah,
so that kind of. No, go ahead.
Sorry, fellas, but is the run game good enough to hang your hat on? Are you a run pass or first pass first team?
We're supposed to be a run first team.
We started off. I think we started off run back first.
And that's. I almost feel like somebody pulled a bait and switch on us because that's what we were sold this year.
Mm-hmm.
Defense, run games. Grind it out. Everybody was prepared for that. And then we have this games where, Milroe threw for 300 yards, but I'd much rather see our run game get going. Yeah. And I know they say, is it the offensive line? Okay, but we've got a lot of good backs on this team that nobody's ever going to see. It feels
well. I mean, you're absolutely right. When I was at media days, those guys talked all the talk, right?
Yep.
Murder ball, push this. We're going to bully folks, this, that, and the other. And we didn't see that. So I'm not sure. That's where it just brings me back to the philosophy, because you were also juggling quarterbacks at that point, early in the season. Like, who is it going to be? I don't know. Do you guys believe that they know who they are? Because 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I said, look, Florida, I think it was around the Florida game. Herb was in the chat, and I was like, here's the thing. I think Alabama has to get used to playing great defense and winning games 20-13. And you need to run your quarterback 10 to 15 times, get that extra hat in the run game and take advantage of it. Control the ball, help your defense, play complementary ball. And the special teams units for Alabama are pretty doggone good. Mm-hmm. So to me, that seems like a way to win. And then I look up and I'm like, okay, that's what they did. They got the W. That's great. And then the next week, was it A&M or Mississippi State, and they threw the ball all over the yard and had a bunch of big numbers. And I'm like, so now we're a passing team. And I don't know. I mean, you need to be able to win based on what's happening in the game, right? You need to be multiple. Obviously, everyone wants to be multiple, but at the same time, you still have to know who you are, where your bread's buttered, right? So if it's crunch time, what are you doing? And I'm just, again, I'm having a hard time figuring it out. But Alabama and LSU and Ole Miss, they're all, to me, just microcosms of what the SEC West is this year. I have no idea what's going to happen in the SEC West. I picked Alabama to win, but I'm sitting here right now thinking, is there any way that they can score with what LSU is doing right now?
And that was one of the things we talked
about. Slow them down
right before you got on there. If we don't get enough stops, and there's going to be a spot where we can't get a couple stops, if LSU goes up by 14, like, it feels like the game's going to be over. And I think to your other point, I really feel like Reeves came in and he wanted to bring Buckner in. And I feel like that was his ulterior motive. And when that didn't work out, he's really just not adjusted to having Milroe back there, because that's who I would be running. So let me get a couple comments out the way, and then we'll try to transition into Lady Alpha. Hello. That was from a while back. Rex, this was when your talent was there. The coaches aren't. Like I said, defensively, I feel like they're coming along. Offensively, I just feel like they're on different pages. It feels like Milroe and Reeves are meeting each other before every game, and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. So, Brian, I feel so bad for Brian. They'll call and say the Bama covers first time. I just don't see it. So it's like I would never pick that. So I feel like, I appreciate you, Brian, but man, I got no faith in that.
The thing about that comment is if things go how they're supposed to go, we could easily cover in this game. But based on what we've seen the past 5 or 6 games, we have absolutely no idea what we're going to get. And I hate having that feeling, because previous years, I could pretty much tell you, hey, we're going to win this game by this many points. And for the most part, that would happen. On a few occasions, it didn't happen. This year, who knows? We're just trying to get out of each week with a W and move on to the next week.
That's honestly it. Mike talked about Proctor will be. I hope so. And I think you'll like this one, Randy. This one made me laugh when it first came up. So he's going to steal that one from you, Randy.
Take it, man. I mean, because, and that's the thing. All right. So I'm going to talk about my dogs for just a second. Well,
that's why we brought you on here.
Yeah,
so
go ahead.
Definitely going to transition over there.
We know you got something to talk about, so go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I just want to use them as an example, right? Because if you look over 21 and 22, in 21, there's no doubt about it, that was a defensive-led team, and the offense was efficient, and they were not super explosive. In 22, the offense was much better. They were much more explosive on volume than they were in 21. The defense was still really good, but maybe not quite as good as 21. And they just increased their efficiency. So the bottom line is, if you're going to play great defense, that's fine. You can control the ball as long as you are efficient and punch it in the end zone when you get the opportunity. You can win. You can win national championships that way. Now, in 22, clearly they had to be able to score, against an Ohio State or whoever to put points on the board. But by that point, they were 3 years into that system and everything had settled in. And one of the basic tenets of that offense is exactly what I said. You will not go broke taking a profit. Right. So when you see the Georgia quarterback, so now we're talking about Bennett or Beck, if you see that player just pick up the first down with a 6-yard run, right? That's it. They turn their backs, he gets the first down, move the chains. Then you're on to the next set of downs, right? Yeah. And the same thing with dumping it off to a running back, or the same thing on a hitch, or maybe a quick slant, whatever it is. Just take what they give you, but do it aggressively. And that's the key, right? Is you have to be willing to take it. And then when they respond, you hurt them, right? You take that other shot, that bigger shot or whatever. So there's no reason to poo-poo, taking a profit. You can give it away if you want to, but then you're going to end up in 3rd and long. And that's just going to kill you over the course of a game inside this conference when you face good defenses.
That's true.
I agree.
I was just reading the ticker a second ago, and it made me laugh. So I wasn't laughing at anything you guys said. I looked down and I was like, "Wait, what?" So, I was reading that. So again, I'm the one who's lucky to be here, though. Let's get that straight.
No, definitely, man. We appreciate you. We're going to transition to ours. You missed this on our last show. The perfect time they went in on Daniel Jones on the last show for whatever reason. So that's
a whole entirely different situation there.
The backfield being mid. I don't know. I like our back. I just don't feel like they've had a chance to shine. I don't think you have like an alpha dog, maybe like we had. I think people think Justice Haynes might be that one day.
He looks good when he's in, but he's only getting a handful of carries, if that. So that's the thing.
Listen, man, if he gets bored,
murder ball, we're just getting joyless balls.
Listen. If Justice gets bored, doesn't like his carries or any of that, you send him on back home.
No, we're
Justice. Because you guys need more help.
I'm calling Justice right now. Hey, Randy was joking. Okay. All right, buddy. Bye. Yeah. We're gonna keep him.
Have you seen our injury situation at running back? Come on, we need bodies, man.
That's actually an excellent transition. Which, by the way, Rex is definitely a fan of you, making a lot of sense out here. Something.
Welcome, Rex. Pleasure to meet you.
You brought it up, so we will transition into this.
Okay.
With the news coming out about Brock Bowers. You already watched your shorts, and I guess you're addressing it also on your show tomorrow, if I'm correct. If I was reading that teaser correct, but
that's going to be part of it.
What can you give us your first thoughts about that whole situation?
Well, I mean, he's clear. I'm going to say clearly one of the top players in the country, if not the top all-around football player in the country this year, right? So when you lose that guy, it hurts. Point blank, period, full stop. With that said, I am not someone who believes the sky is falling. So I think that if you look back over the last 2 or 3 seasons, every one of those seasons, Georgia has lost a key member of their offense. In 21, they were without Pickens for most of the season, right? We all know who George Pickens is and what he can do. Mm-hmm. In 22, we missed A.D. Mitchell for 10 games. Everyone thinks that Ladd McConkey was the best Georgia receiver last year. He wasn't. He was because AD wasn't there. That's just the truth. He wound up with the best statistics. That takes nothing away from how awesome Ladd is, because that dude is the real deal. But he was not the go-to guy heading into the season. And this is just same song, different verse. And this is an opportunity for the Georgia team to show and prove that they are exactly what they say they are, which is a program built on a good foundation, buoyed by development and high school recruiting. And all the pieces are there. I expect them to play winning football. Can they replace Brock Bowers with one person? Absolutely not. He is everybody's All-American. Yep. Can they replace Brock Bowers' production given the unit that is out there, like the offensive unit of pass catchers and playmakers? Absolutely, they can. So will it change how much we run 12 personnel and things like that? Maybe a little bit. I don't think it's going to be too drastic. But the biggest deal is going to be, how do you use the pieces that are there? And as a Georgia fan, the thing that gives me hope is when you look back to Mike's experience, Mike Bobo, his experience in Athens last time, he spent large amounts of his final 3 or 4 seasons in Athens without his top playmakers. He was without Gurley for a couple of different stretches. He was without AJ Green for a couple of different stretches. And, you know, there are guys like Brendan Douglas and JJ Green who wound up carrying the ball for 500 yards when Gurley wasn't there. So my point is, he has shown a propensity and the ability to effectively take the playmakers he has and put them in position to make plays. So I think that's going to happen again. The come up of Ra Thomas, Ladd McConkey, Dominic Lovett, Lawson Lucky, you know, these are the kind of guys that you're going to get to know. Oscar Delp. You're going to meet these guys. If you don't know them already, you're going to really meet them. I just expect that they're going to it's going to look very similar, but no, you cannot replace Brock with one person.
Right. I would agree.
And he is one of the best. I think we can all agree, one of the best college football players in the nation. Yeah. Probably may have been up close last year as well. But obviously by far the best tight end. And I've told Herb several times, I wish he could fall in the draft to my Miami Dolphins, but we don't pick until we're
every week. I have to listen.
I know.
To this,
I'm just picturing. I'm picturing Tua throwing it Tyreek. Now you got Brock Bowers. I mean,
I say because that's what they need, more offense.
We don't pick until like 24, 25. So he's gonna be gone way before then.
Yeah. Man, if I'm anything in the NFL, I'm still a Raiders fan, and I would not wish him being drafted to the Raiders. I wouldn't wish that on him.
That's a tough scenario, yeah.
Right. So, you know, go have a great career whenever that day finally comes.
Yeah.
But at this point, I am less and less every year someone who follows the NFL. It's not for love of football. I just enjoy the college football game so much more than I do the NFL game.
Herb and I agree.
You see that Raj Bowers in Miami? Yeah, I don't even see. But there's an interesting one. How high will Brock Bowers?
I would say a top 10, and this is without looking at who's drafting when. I don't have that in front of me right now, but I mean, I would say he's a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I think the thing is, a lot of your top, he's already going to get pushed down because a lot of your top teams are going to end up quarterback wise.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, Arizona, Chicago are interesting situations if they decide to move on or not. But I just think a lot of teams are going to trade up and get quarterbacks because it seems like a better quarterback draft. But I don't.
Well,
he's a top 10 player. Let's say that much, and then it's situational after that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that completely, and obviously it's based on team need and things. But I will say this, from having watched him really closely for 3 years, when you draft that dude, you're not just getting a pass-catching tight end. You're getting, just a fantastic teammate, a wonderful worker, the kind of guy that sets the example for a franchise, right? He's a tremendous blocker. There are so many intangibles that are associated with him. And then on top of that, you get the playmaking ability that he has. So, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he were a top 5 guy. But Drake May's the best quarterback in the draft. Caleb Williams is right there with him. And then once you get beyond those two, like you said, it's situational and what do you need? But if you're just taking the best player available, that's your guy. So
he hasn't thrown a touchdown pass yet, though, right? Am I correct?
No, he has not. But obviously they lined him up this year before his injury. They lined him up at tailback. They lined him up at fullback. They lined him up in the slot. Wide out. And it was just a matter of time. It was a matter of time until they did that, where he takes that thing on the reverse and goes around and everybody comes flying up there. He was going to put it up. I guarantee you that was going to happen. And it could have happened in the SEC championship game against your Bama, or it could have happened against the hated Gators who we have in a couple weeks.
Did you just put us in the SEC championship game? Thank you.
I did that in the preseason. Right?
Thank you, Randy. Thank you.
I mean, we'll take
we
anything
did too. We
right
did
now.
too in the preseason, but after these past few games, we're just like, man, I don't know what's going on anymore.
I fully get it, but if we're just throwing things on the table, I mean, LSU still has to come to Tuscaloosa, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know Texas came in and won. I get that, but they still have to come and do it. So with the way, and I understand they might be getting better on defense, but you can have at LSU a little bit on the offensive side. So it's wide open over there, man. There's no reason that they can't still get to Atlanta.
Yeah. There are some rivalries NFL wise. I just don't feel like they go with college at all. I feel like college has way more passion.
And it's different because each week in college football, each game is much more impactful. I mean, you lose one game, especially when you're in the SEC. You're already looking at the schedule thinking, all right, we've got to win out. Hopefully we can do this just to make it to the SEC championship because the standards are different. In the NFL, you can lose 7-8 games, still make it be a wild card.
And to the first part of hers, that there's just not the same heart in those guys. What you got, Randy?
So 2 points. One, the first part's the part that I absolutely agree with our commenter. The second part is being a Raiders fan. Trust me, I can hate on some Broncos and Chiefs pretty good. So, I can still get behind that. But the heart part, no, I'm with you. It's a business, and that's how they treat it. And but to that point, it sounds to me like you guys are in the anti-12 team playoff pack.
I was until this year. This year has been one of the first years where I thought some good teams are going to get left out. My first two examples: if Oregon beats Washington in the rematch in the Pac-12 championship, and Texas beat Oklahoma in the rematch in the Big 12 championship, and all those teams only lost, you're going to tell me that Washington gets the whole season, loses the last game, much like TCU last year. Washington is going to get left out, and Oklahoma is going to get left out. Not because they lost the game, but because of when they lost the game. I think that's going to hurt because I see one team from there, one team from Big 12, the way it's going, one team from the Big 10. Georgia, I really feel like is maybe the only shot in the SEC. And then you got Florida State lurking out there who's undefeated. So this might be one of the few years where I've said you probably are going to end up with maybe 5 to 7 deserving teams and 4 spots. But then what shoots my argument in the foot is like last year we had 3 deserving teams, maybe 2, and we basically just had to flip a coin for the 4th. So this year would be one of the few years where I thought they should expand it, but I wouldn't have gone to 12. I think 6 still would have been fine.
That's a bit much, and I feel like at the end of the day, this is my opinion. I kind of feel like the top 4 teams are always going to be the top 4 teams at the end of the day. Once they expand to 12 teams, those teams 9 through 12. They might get lucky and get an upset here and there every now and then, but at the end of the day, you're going to have your dominant 4 teams at the end of the day. And of course, it provides for more entertainment and money, blah, 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 blah. And I've also made the point to, if you're on the team, if your team's ranked 11 or 12 and you're a top, round 1 pick draft in the draft, are you going to play or are you just going to sit out? Because, if it's me, I might say, you know what, I'm looking at the schedule ahead. This looks kind of tough. I'm a top 5 pick. I might just sit out and get prepped for the draft, but
and Rex is echoing mine. I think 6 would have been good. The 5 conference championships and a wild card. I think once you start going to 12, it's like, let's take a scenario. Well, I mean, like this year, let's say, or like last year where LSU goes to the SEC championship game against Georgia and Alabama doesn't get to any one of them. And we're going to get a bonus by playing one less game. And now you make it into the playoffs, especially if there's 12, So I don't know. I'm sorry, though, Rand. I know we're talking over. You go ahead with what were you thinking about it?
Well, I just got a lot of thoughts. I mean, we can go wherever, but I would have been fine with 8. I think 12 is a lot, and I've said for months that at the end of the day, there's only a handful of schools, maybe 6 to 8, that are actually doing what you need to do to compete at that top 4 level for the national title. So all those other dudes are getting participation trophies at the end of the day. It's all about money and driving eyeballs and selling ads. So that's fine. I'm still going to watch the games. I'm going to be excited. But ultimately, we're still going to be looking at the same, like I say, 6 to 8 programs, unless something changes drastically
Right.
we can't foresee. Right. It's just going. Now I see the question on the screen here about Georgia's defense in 21 and 22. Okay, so now here's the thing: all preseason long, and even the first part of the year, I am on record as saying that I believed this year's squad was going to be closer to 21 than 22, statistically speaking. Now that we're 7 games into the year, I think I'm going to have to back off that a little bit because currently the Dogs are allowing like 91 yards a game rushing. They're only giving up 14 points a game. And some of that, obviously, we're in the middle of the season. So, you know, it's moving parts and who you've played and all that kind of stuff. But I just I don't know that they're going to hit the mark that I had set for them. That still doesn't mean that it's not a really good defense. They are in the top 10. Georgia is the only team in the nation that's in the top 10 in both offensive and defensive, total offense and defense at the midpoint of the season. So they are a good team, but there are signs that for whatever reason, whether it's just communication or something like that, they're still giving up things that they just haven't given up in the last couple of years. I mean, that's what happened against Vandy, right? Yeah. The first touchdown, that was a busted assignment, right? You had two corners who switched. One switched and one didn't. And then you had a guy running wide open down the seam, and there you go. He outruns them with his 10-2 speed, right? So busts happen, and that sucks, but that's what has led them to where they are right now. So I think I'm going to miss that mark as far as statistically. Still a good squad, still has the potential to improve, which is promising, but we still are, like I say, giving up a few more run yards, and we're not in the low red zone area. They're not as stubborn as they've been the last couple of years. When you get down there this year, they seem to be giving up a few more touchdowns than they have the last couple of years. And that's one of the things I think that sort of makes Georgia fans uneasy. Yeah. But still a good unit, but not at that level. Not right now. I mean, they could get better, but right now they're not there.
From an outsider, it seems like if you just had Georgia's defense second half stats, that they would be clearly number one in the nation versus versus the full game stats.
Yeah. So. And again, it's hard to tell because I know that Michigan has a really good defense. Like, I know that inherently, I know that, but I also know that if anybody is going to give Georgia a race for the weakest schedule, the first 6 games of the year, it's Michigan. Yeah. I mean, I
was about to just say, who has Michigan played so far? Because when you look at their scores, I'm like, come on.
Yeah. They were going to suspend their coach for 3 or 4 games, and everybody was just like, I mean, those 3 or 4, we're good with it.
Yeah, exactly. Because it was like Rutgers and a bunch of other guys. I'm like, okay, they don't need him the first 5 or 6 games, to be honest with you. So they'll be okay.
Well, you mentioned the only winning team they've played, and that's Rutgers. One team has a winning record, and it's Rutgers. Yeah. So, and then this weekend, obviously, we're going to find out a little something about Ohio State and Penn State, right? Yep. And we'll make a pick on that one Thursday. So that's just one of those where you know what you know what you think you know, and then you know what you know after you've seen some stuff. And that's where we are right now. So, again, Georgia, we're going to find out because the next 3 or 4 games, there's a possibility that 4 of their final 5 opponents are going to be top 25. At least one of those could be a top 10 matchup. Now, I'm not someone who puts a ton into rankings. Ultimately, they don't matter. But that's what fans like to talk about. So if that's your measuring stick, then Georgia's schedule is about to get a lot more difficult over the next month. And we're going to find out, right? We're going to find out. So I'm not concerned about it. That's why I never worry about strength of schedule anyway. At the end of the day, you're going to have to play them all. And the team that shows up in September, if it's a decent team, is not going to be the same team that steps on the field in November. So that's a completely overrated talking point, in my opinion. And I'm just like, let's roll the ball out there and find out who's going to win this thing.
As Alabama fans, that's a shot that we have to take every year. And then so I did that. One of our first shows, I went and looked. Our strength of schedule was like top 5 every year. I said, nobody looks at the end of the year and all the games we play. They look at that one game, before rivalry week, and they call that out. But they don't look at it. And somehow they held the Florida State game against us. I'm like, are we going by their record at the time when we played them?
When we played them, it was like 1 versus 3.
So I totally get the Georgia argument. And I'm like, they're going to play the schedule in front of them. They lost Oklahoma off the schedule through no fault of their own.
Right.
And you can't look at them and just tell me that they're not one of the best teams in the nation. So,
and you got to
That's the
take into
thing.
consideration, like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Randy. Games like, let's just say the Georgia Auburn game this year. Some people will look at it who's not familiar with the SEC will look and say, well, Georgia's ranked number 1, Auburn's not ranked. You have to take into consideration you're playing in a on the road tough environment in the SEC. That's not a game where Georgia's going to win 50-0. It's not going to be like that. If you watch that game, both teams played well. But Georgia did what a little more at the end, and you know they played a little harder at the end and did what it takes. And it was a good solid win from Georgia. The same with us playing at A&M this year. A good solid win. We were picked by a certain amount of points. We won by 6. I'll take it. It was a good solid SEC road win.
Yeah.
Just had
People
to
are
put it out
discounting the defenses in these teams that you're also talking about.
Right.
They're looking at the overall ranking, saying maybe their offense is not there. It's fine, but you know, Auburn, just like many years, has still like a top 10 D. Maybe not statistically. But from what I can see and what I see in these games, like they're the ones keeping them in games. Their offense is just putrid.
Oh yeah.
To use one of my words.
yeah, that defense is salty, and the same thing with A&M, right? You look at their front seven. That's a front seven that's dotted with NFL dudes. I mean, so which brings us back to what happened at Tennessee this last weekend. The fact that Tennessee still ran the ball the way they did makes you think, okay, Tennessee can then run the football, you know.
Yeah.
But now they got to face Alabama. And to your point on the schedule, let's just be real. I mean, for a long time, I was envious when I would look at Alabama because a lot of teams are really good football teams. And then they play Alabama and they look like they're not. And that has happened with Georgia over the last couple of years. Really good football teams. And then Georgia just handles them. And then all of a sudden, maybe they weren't as good. No, they're that good. Right. It's just that the team that won is that good also.
Exactly.
You know, so I can feel you there. We can commiserate on that one a little bit now.
Yeah.
Real quick, Randy, I guess we're coming up to the top of the hour and we still have to put you through a whole nother questions of death.
You've got me as long as you want me. How's that sound?
I appreciate that. How do you, with considering the Brock Bowers injury, how do you feel Georgia navigates this last half of the schedule with your toughest games coming up?
Yeah, well, prior to the season, there's no reason for me to say that all of a sudden I think they're going to lose a game. Right. I just don't. And again, I'll get into more of that this week about why. But I still think, though, and I said this, I'm on record as saying this, I looked at Auburn as a warning game for Georgia. I still look at Ole Miss. That was the other one I had mentioned as a warning game for Georgia, just simply because of what they do and how they do it. They are dangerous. And you put that against the matchup of what Georgia is and what we do well. The Mississippi game is one that's going to be, I'm going to have the pucker factor for that one for most of the game, unless it just breaks our way early and, you know, turnovers or whatever. And then everybody's going to point to Knoxville, right? But that's where I come back to you guys playing Tennessee this weekend, because I feel like I understand pretty good about what Alabama is in the front seven. Until Tennessee can run the football against Georgia and improve on defense, they're not going to beat Georgia. Right. So I see that they ran the ball against A&M. I want to see whether they run the ball against Alabama.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to have to make an assessment. I mean, can they beat Georgia? Absolutely they can. Then I think about the fact that Joe Milton is still their quarterback. Right. And I know what we are going to do defensively. Right. So that makes me feel better. So at this point, I'm still not calling for a loss. Is the potential there for a loss? Absolutely. Ole Miss absolutely could get them. Tennessee absolutely could get them. Especially our injury situation is long documented, but I am not someone who points to injuries and says that's an excuse for why we lost. Right. You know, we have quality players. We have just as many scholarships as everybody else. I expect them to be coached up and ready to go. That's exactly how my coaching staff feels. And if they go out there and anybody uses that as an excuse, then you're going to get major pushback from me. So I expect Georgia to get through the regular season undefeated. I make no claims about the SEC championship game because at that point you're in the postseason. And if they were to make it to the playoff, then absolutely all bets are off. You just never know what's going to happen. And I'm just happy to be there. Let's take our shot. I still think that Georgia can get it done. Now, if they lose one, will I be shocked? Absolutely not. Right. I just won't be. But if they lost more than one, I would be.
Yeah.
So I was on a show earlier this year where some crazy guy picked Tennessee to beat Georgia.
That was me.
If we could find that guy, I wonder what he would say.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. That was prior to the season because I was still banking on how Tennessee played offense last year, and I did not know Milton was going to play like this year. I did not see this coming, and that was a statement I made. I can't take it back, obviously, but if you ask me now, I'm going to say, yeah, Tennessee's not going to win that game.
And it's not just Milton. I know I've taken a couple of shots at him, but it's not just him. Like his wide receivers are not winning. And if they do get open, scheme, bust, whatever, they are dropping the football. They are not reliable the way those dudes were last year. So it's not just him. I mean, they threw for 100 yards last week, y'all. 100 yards.
Yeah.
That's
horrible. But regular with on that. He said Tennessee is. I think so.
I mean, just look at their scoring from last year to this year. It's just completely different.
It's ugly. Yeah. Mike had an idea. 32 playoff team. Yeah.
No. So no.
And Brian jumped in with his Oklahoma stats, which will lead probably into my first. One of my first, and I didn't realize the 23rd toughest schedule because I didn't think a lot of the Big 12 was doing well this year.
And by the way, I have picked Oklahoma to win. Like I picked Oklahoma over Texas, right? I mean, I'm a believer in OU, so I'm not. I don't know why. I just don't spend a lot of time looking that far down the road. Like I haven't even thought again about who my 4 playoff teams could be or any of that. I'm just taking it week by week at this point and see who shows up.
Okay. Well, we're hearing some crying babies in the background, so we're going to jump into the questions of death and get out there so we don't get divorced over the show. All right, first question, because that kind of led into it. If there was no SEC teams in this year's playoffs, what Final Four would you like to see, and who would you like to see in the championship game? And not necessarily based on what the rankings are right now, but who would be your favorite?
Okay.
And Brian liked yours, so you better pick Oklahoma because Brian just followed you on Twitter just because.
Well, here's the thing about the Oklahoma pick, right? I mean, Texas is a quality football team. I was traveling, so I didn't actually get to watch that game, but it was crazy, just from what I could glean from it. So, I don't know. I would say. Let's ride with. I still think Oregon. I love Oregon, but I'm going to have to give it to Washington since they won on the field. I would enjoy watching Washington. I would enjoy watching. I would love to say I would enjoy watching Penn State, but I can't trust Penn State, so I'll just put Michigan in there instead. If Penn State goes, then y'all just give me a pass on that one because I'd settle for them.
Well, because it's yours and who you would enjoy, we're going to give you Penn State. So you've got Penn State.
I think that'd be fun. And there's no SEC team. So give me Florida State because why not? They haven't been there in a while. Right. And who am I forgetting? Big 12.
Oklahoma.
So out of the Big 12, yeah. So out of those two, I would much rather see Oklahoma get in than I would see Texas get in. So there you go. Yeah. Washington, Oklahoma, Florida State, and Michigan or Penn State.
Penn State. And who's your final two?
I would probably have Washington as my 1 seed, and I would probably have Penn State as they'd be in the Big 10. So I'd probably have Oklahoma as the 4 seed at that point. Ooh. So I would put Washington in the final, and then I would have Penn State beating Michigan to get back to the championship.
Beating Florida
game.
State to beat the championship.
Oh, did I say Florida? Yeah, not Michigan. Yes, Penn State beating Florida State.
Washington and Penn State. Penn State fans would go crazy. Just
to yeah.
Okay. Rod, you had one?
Yeah. All right, we're gonna do another episode of Work, Play, Live. I'll give you 3 names. You tell me who you'd rather work with, who you'd rather hang out with, and who you would want as your neighbor.
Okay.
So we're gonna do Georgia running back edition.
Okay.
Nick Chubb, Todd Gurley, and Herschel Walker.
Okay. So I want to live next door to Nick Chubb for sure. That's my kind of wholesome dude.
He seems like a good guy.
Yeah. If I had to work with somebody, that's definitely going to be Herschel Walker because then we can just talk whenever, but there's nothing forced. It's like you do your thing, I'll do mine.
Yeah.
And then I would say let me go out with Todd because he's still a really young dude and he's got all the hookups from LA.
Yeah.
And he's got a bunch of cool sponsorships. So there's swag and red rope treatment everywhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So give me Gurley.
Gotcha.
Sounds good. All right, we'll get to the quick question for the last one. With all the changes and everything going on with the conferences, if you had to go ahead and move Georgia Tech out of that last spot for the last game of the year, who are you moving in? Who is now your permanent rival at the end of the year?
Okay. And am I thinking about conference realignment? Is that what I'm considering?
You can consider anything. You can grab Wyoming if you really like them and you want to put them at the end of every year.
Okay.
It is a blank slate. We're just saying no more Georgia Tech.
Okay. Then I would say let's put Clemson there. I like that.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Okay. I didn't see that one coming.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because that's a nice traditional rivalry, regionally, and there's some good history there. And at the end of the season, even though I don't know if it'd be in conference or not, and it might be in conference, but I think that'd be a fun way to finish. If it can't be Auburn, then let's make it Clemson.
Yeah. Personally, I would have picked Vanderbilt, but that's fine. All right. Randy, last question. I know we got to jump off there. Roger's giving me the signal. You're going to the SC championship game. Georgia versus Bama.
Okay.
You got 2 tickets, and family members are excluded. You have to bring one other person. It has to be either Herb or Raj.
Okay.
Who are you taking?
Look at the screen, Randy. Look at the screen.
That's hard, but here's what I'm going to do, and you're going to hate me for it. I am going to take Raj because I respect Herb's Twitter game better. We could chat during the game on Twitter. Raj doesn't hit me up on Twitter. I don't know what's up about
Herb
that.
is much more versed on Twitter than I am, and I've even admitted that I've got to get back on the Twitter, so I will start doing that. But after today, because I won today, so now I can get back on Twitter.
See, Herb, this is where your proficiency at the social media is hurting you.
Herb, it's okay to lose. Randy just said he likes me better than you. That's all. He would rather hang out with me more than you. We appreciate your honesty.
He basically told me, Herb, I want to keep you at a distance.
Yes.
But you know what I just realized? What I just realized, this was absolutely unintentional, is last time I picked Raj because of his hat. And now Herb is over 2. And that is not Herb's my guy, man. That is not cool. We
will ask you a similar question in the near future. So you have time to prep for it.
When you're back on here again, we'll try again and maybe maybe he will just cop out and take Big Mike instead to make them easy. But Randy, we appreciate you coming on. Tell everybody where to find you real quick.
Yeah, it's very simple. You see it in my handle right there. At a damn beast, and we do all kinds of fun stuff over there. Everything seems to start on the YouTubes, and then it filters out from there to TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all those places. And we do fun things, and we have fun goodies too that you can find in our stuff.
Okay.
So come check us out, look around, see what you like, stay for a while.
All right, awesome. We appreciate you, Randy.
You guys. Mr. U, thank you again for the shirts,
man.
You Randy,
Mr. U. Yes.
I don't know that we'll ever wear a Georgia Bulldog shirt, man, but you're definitely our favorite Georgia Bulldog fan. Yeah. So we appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
I thank you for that very much. And check out, I do have some merch out there. I've got 2 new designs that I'm going to get up this week, and they're pretty sweet. So maybe you want to check those out.
We would definitely check it out.
Check them out.
We appreciate you always. Hopefully to get to check back with you. Most likely SEC championship game if you're not too busy. But
no, hit me up anytime, fellas. Seriously.
Yep, and I'll listen to you guys pick Tennessee over us this Thursday. I'll be at least I know Joe's gonna pick against us. So. Rod, he picked Ole Miss against us. He picked Mississippi State.
Hey, with the way we were playing, I'm not surprised. Now Mississippi State, I am surprised at Mississippi State. I didn't see that one. But,
that was the one that hurt me, Raj. I said next he's gonna pick Mississippi Delta Community College again.
Oh my god,
that's what that hurt. All right, for the Herb and Raj podcast, we appreciate all the comments, all the love. If I missed you guys, we apologize. We will catch up with you. Next week is a change. We're going on at 8 family stuff happening, so we're gonna have to push it back an hour.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Hope to see y'all next week. Randy, once again, man, have a great night. Raj,
Have a good night, Randy.
I guess let's go handle some business, man. Roll Tide,
All right,
everybody.
roll Tide.